I am Vasundhara Devdhar. I am from Mumbai Grahak Panchayat.
I am Ashok Rawat. I am Honorary Secretary of All India Bank Depositors Association.
Sunil Bandare from All India Bank Depositors Association.
I am Nagesh Kini. I am a chartered accountant and connected with Moneyline.
I am Srikant Soman, Honorary Secretary, Council for Fair Business Practices.
Rajendra Thakkar, social activist.
I've just highlighted a few points that we have made, and just as a reference point, and then we can go ahead with the discussion. One is that we think it's premature to do this. It's ill-conceived. We are taking a very harsh stand, and we are not saying some things are acceptable or a little bit is okay. We think it should be rejected completely in toto, because the minute you open a door and say we are ready to accept even 5% of what they're suggesting, we start losing our voice. So it may sound a little extreme, but we think that that whole report, given the fact that there is a Damodaran committee report which talked about incentives, without implementing the incentives, we are talking about disincentives. So we feel that we want to take the stand that it should be rejected in toto. Online transactions are tough. A simple example that I can give you, RBI governor's letter that I wrote to him, he forwarded it, he only removed my name and sent the CC to everybody else. Okay? So my point is very simple. It is an internal communication which he marked to Alpana and others. Now my point is that if the RBI governor has a problem handling a simple email that he couldn't remove the CCs, then why should he expect that the rest of the country, which is far less educated, informed, and tech savvy than him, is going to be able to do banking transactions? It is just absurd per se. We find it difficult even in Bombay. I've also been saying that most bank chairmen, I've challenged them, do not know to sit in front of a computer and do any transfer. So we have bank transfers which have enormous amounts of paperwork. You want to do NEFT or RTGS, you have to fill endless amounts of forms, go and give them physically, and then it happens. So no paper is saved. You have the same bureaucracy, you have to go and submit it, and then it happens in the bank. It does not happen computer to computer. I don't know any member of parliament, any bank chairman who does his own personal transactions himself. So I don't see how it can be pushed on ordinary people to do. Then I think there is plenty of global research which will show that in principle people will pay the charges, because you don't know how to use it, you will not switch. You will grumble, you will complain, but you will pay the charge, which means that we will either move to more cash, or we will be penalized by paying for the checks, and it will only enrich banks. So the basic objective of saying push us into using bank transfers is not going to happen. It is only going to enrich banks and is going to create more cash in the system. RBI itself knows and says that globally 1% of GDP in most countries is cash transactions. In India it is 5%. This is internal information from the RBI. So if we are already at 5%, are we going to make it worse for ourselves by encouraging? In fact, we will push people to use more cash rather than pushing people to use bank transfers. Standard practice, they say the recommendations were based on stakeholders. Again, our information from insiders is that no stakeholders were consulted at all. It is completely an internal thing. This is not done by any regulator anymore. They put out a discussion paper, but I think before the discussion paper they should have talked to people. Then, again, Damodaran committee, Mr. Rawat has been on the Damodaran committee. We all know incentives before disincentives. So they are not talking about incentives. There is a charge on NEFT and RTGS already. And without removing it, they want to start disincentives. So that's another reason why we think it should not be okay. I've already talked about the flight to cash. We have excess cash in our system. We will have more cash. This has been tried in Ireland and the UK. Ireland has it. I don't know how it's working, but it's too tiny a country. Literacy levels are different. Per capita income levels are different, so there's no comparison. But a country like the UK tried it and scrapped it. Okay, they spent a lot of money on this, and there was so much of anger and public protest that they had to discard it. Even in America, where again literacy levels and everything is higher, checks are still in use. No other country has scrapped checks altogether, and they're talking about doing it from April. I think thanks to our protests, now they're not talking about April at least, but this was how they were planning to implement it. And we feel that grievance redressal is extremely shoddy. I think you all have read in the Times of India all those cases about people's cards being cloned and used in the US. We know for a fact that this, before the Times of India wrote it, we got complaints 2 months before that this problem had happened. We discovered through the counselors in Disha and RBI that there is a procedure where they are supposed to put the money into the person's account pending inquiry. And this has not been done. People were sent running from pillar to post. If this can happen in a simple, straightforward case of credit card cloning, where some of the people whose cards were cloned and used in Saudi Arabia and the US don't even have a passport. So there was no question of them having used their credit cards abroad, but they were still made to run from pillar to post. So there is no system. In fact, banking ombudsman, we used to praise it to the sky, saying RBI has become very good. They're handling it extremely well. But in the last 2 years, the RBI's Consumer Services Department has degenerated dramatically. They do not reply. They used to earlier reply to every single complaint. They don't reply. The CGM does not reply. So if this is the state of affairs at the RBI level, you know, it is impossible. In fact, it is impossible to prove fraud when it happens on online transactions for most people. So they have not even discussed what is the manner in which it will be handled before they say they'll disincentivize check usage. MoneyLife wrote about this story. I think you all know on the 25th of October, apparently the Ministry of Finance had sent a fatwa saying that you have to start charging for people who use checks to pay credit card transactions. And as soon as we wrote it, in one day, on 12th March, story appears, by evening they had withdrawn it. So I think public pressure works. They are unilaterally taking decisions the minute, which is why I thought that, you know, all of us should get together, because if a tiny organization like ours writes it and puts pressure and it has worked, I think if all of us get together, the impact will be much more significant. I'm not going to discuss the Cobra Post because I thought disincentive should be first, but all I have done here is put down the points that Cobra Post has raised and why these things happen. I just want to make 2 points before we go to the, we will discuss Cobra Post in the end, so if necessary I'll open it at that time. But I just want to make one point which we have been taking up very strongly with all regulators, which is this, that the US moved from a system where there was pure banking and no universal banking. They scrapped the Glass-Steagall Act, which is why banks have been allowed to become traders. So banks do investment banking, banks hawk insurance products, and banks are doing everything else, and this whole system of relationship managers has started after that. So now you have an absurd situation where banks have relationship managers who, as soon as a customer walks in, is persuading the customer not to keep the money in the bank, but to actually put it in insurance or some other product. When you look at it, it makes no sense at all, because why should a bank not want your money? Why should a bank want to take your money out and put it somewhere else? We've been saying that we don't need to emulate everything that the US does. If something is bad, and it is proven to be bad, you had a global financial crisis by following a US model as being the best one. If we need something else in India, we should ask for it. And we think root of the problem, one of them is A, universal banking, B, relationship managers. When we took it up with IRDA, the maximum mis-selling, and IRDA chairman J. Harinarayan in his last interview said, we are wrong, we have allowed toxic products to be sold to people. Having said this, he came and attended our meeting 1 year before that, and our first point was stop banks selling insurance product, and he straight away told us, I'm sorry, it can't be done. So I think it's time now to put pressure and say, why should it not be done? In fact, in this budget, Chidambaram talks about allowing banks to be insurance brokers. I think we should not allow it. It will be more cheating, and this is one of the reasons relationship managers are only concerned with targets and what products they can sell for a commission. And I think we also need to take a stand on misleading ads, because misleading advertisements, simple thing like, a senior citizen lady sitting in a bank well after dusk We know it doesn't happen, right? But actually, when you think about it, if it's a relationship manager who's conning her, every 2 hours over a cup of tea to transfer her FDs into ULIPs or other things, we know ULIPs have been sold to 80-year-old people. We know they've been sold to people who wanted a retirement product, and at the age of 60, when they're retiring, a school teacher has been told to buy a ULIP where she makes payments until the age of 80. We've been carrying these, we've been publishing names, nobody has said what you've written is wrong. We've had illiterate people who've been sold to the extent that fraud is committed, wrong PAN cards have been put. This was Reliance Life Insurance, and Reliance Insurance paid back the person, but there is no punishment to the company because IRDA refuses to punish the insurers. So I think if we don't take a strong stand on these issues, it is only going to get worse, and we completely believe what Cobra Post has done. Some people are raising questions because we've seen it happening in front of our eyes. So what they're saying is not unusual or different. We have seen how they behave, and it has been going on. So I end with this, and then we go around the table.
First of all, I must compliment you for this wonderful initiative. I think it's necessary that all of us must come together and make some kind of a joint representation with the Reserve Bank of India. I think there are 2 or 3 major issues which you have brought in. One is about disincentivizing the checks. We, in our own representation to the RBI, just a couple highlighted some of the points which you mentioned, and we totally agree with you, but I'm not very sure whether it can be rejected in toto. But you are very right that there has to be a system of incentivization rather than disincentivization, because disincentivization has a negative connotation. It is sort of penalizing the genuine customers, and what is necessary is to promote the people to get into the modern banking practices, and that's what the idea seems to be. But as you very rightly said, I think it is a premature kind of an effort. A lot of work has to go down. I think it is a work in progress, and probably it's just an initial part of the work in progress which they have started off. And therefore, it is audaciously ambitious on the part of the Reserve Bank to think that everything can work so well that by April 1st we can really start getting into this kind of activity wherein the checks can be completely disincentivized. And in fact, their own study tends to suggest that a large number of transactions in terms of numbers which happen at below a level of some 2 lakhs or 3 lakhs of rupees. And those transactions in terms of value are not large, but in terms of numbers are large, and that suggests that a large number of people are used to check transactions, and suddenly they will be confronted with saying that you are not going to be using the checks. So that is not on. It is certainly not on, and we would resist it, and as a part of the All India Bank Depositors Association. And we have made it very clear in our own notes to the RBI that this is not acceptable to us. Now the other point is about in case the RBI is still very keen, what kind of an approach we should say. I mean, one is to reject it outright and say that no, this is not a system which can work in India. We have a large illiterate customer population of the banks, and even those who are literates are not really financial illiterates, and that's very clear. And not technology literates, and financially also probably, I don't know, many of them are not, as you are saying. I think the gullible customers are taken for a ride in terms of banks trying to sell various other products. But that is a part of the other subject. One is, of course, the disincentivization and the banking institutions getting into the areas which they are not really supposed to be in. and in the process, because of their typical customer relations, trying to exploit the either the ignorance of the customers or gullibility of the customers, and trying to impose on them certain kinds of products. So that is should be taken up on a separate basis. That's what we feel. And on disincentivization, I think we should take a very cohesive stance. We have said it that this is not workable. If at all you want to start it off, I think the right thing to do probably is to get the organized sector, at least the corporates and the government themselves, setting out the model which is seen to be working for all kinds of transactions which they themselves indulge in. And I think Ashok Rawat will probably tell you many things which are still being done by the government on the basis of demand drafts, which requires use of paper rather than non-use of the paper. So therefore, if the government itself is not willing to go by the philosophy of this kind of non-use of the checks, how can the normal customers, the ordinary customers, can be expected to do so? So that's the kind of initial thoughts which I thought probably I'll mention, and then as we go along, we'll some other points.
Soon after getting this discussion paper, it was dated 2nd of February. I submitted to the Reserve Bank, this Consumer Services Department, my submission. To this day, I have not got any acknowledgement, though I talked to the CGM also. Now, I tend to agree with Sucheta, and I have answered each of the queries in the discussion paper, and I tend to agree with her that this should be rejected in toto, because I find that we in India, as my experience goes into 40 years as the auditor of public sector bank, private banks and other banks, and I've conversant traveling from Kashmir to Kanyakumari. So I know what is happening in the banks, what are the consumers' problems, what are the depositors' problems. India is simply not geared to take this up. And number two, as it is rightly pointed out, it has been rejected in the UK, and quoting an Irish example makes no sense. So I don't think it is feasible. Now, Reserve Bank says they have consulted stakeholders. Now I asked them a query, who are the so-called stakeholders they have consulted? They have not come out with any answer. Number three, this whole discussion paper, in my opinion, needs a structured study. It talks only about numbers and does not give about values. Number two, Reserve, I think banks, the universal banking does not work. In India, we need down-to-earth banking and not insurance brokers or mutual funds, which their banks are simply not geared. And now they've got MBAs who know nothing about banking, and on the other side, we find our NPS are going up left, right and center. This is for the simple reason that core banking is forgotten, and we are going into universal banking, which is not a good practice.
A discussion paper issued by RBI by end of January has suggested to discourage the usage of checks. It has proposed that the bank should charge cash withdrawals and deposits made via checks. Its main focus is on disincentivizing issuance and usage of checks. It also includes suggestions for restrictions on number of free checkbooks, high fees on checkbooks, mandatory online payment of credit card bills, and ban on post-dated checks. It has also recommended that the government should do away with the convenience charges for online payment of utility bills and discourage check collection boxes at public places. And they are also going to charge for the receiver of the check payment. So I was shocked, because it is not just person who pays for check, but person who is going to receive payment through check, they are going to charge for that. Yeah, both. Yeah. But generally people understand who uses the check, but the receiver also is going to charge it. And also the charges are phenomenally high. It is not just nominal, because they are going to be more than, make it more expensive than online payments. So RTGS and NEFT payment charges it should be more than that. So that we have to consider. It is not just small impact, 1 or 2 rupees like that. It is going to be a substantial hit. Now, before we go to the main crux of the issue about charges of the checks, let me make clear, as our view, is that online payment method, what are the advantages of online payment? We totally acknowledge the benefit of online method. So it is not to dispute or debate about whether online method is better or the check payment method. First thing, online payment method is fast. Money is transferred within 2 hours. Check clearance and credit to the recipient bank account takes 2 days. I guess that is 2 hours. In a best of the scenario. Actually, it may not happen that way, but it's supposed to happen that way. It is convenient. There is no physical handling of checks and the consequent risk of misplacement of the documents, because check handling involves some risk of document handling. Online payment is particularly useful in case of outstation recipient party. It breaks the geographical barriers. A person may be situated in Arunachal Pradesh or Nagaland, anywhere. So far it is online banking, we can reach it. It is very much convenient and time saving from the bookkeeping and point of view, because bank reconciliation and other things are more easy. Keeping of records is more easy because directly computer records are available. The chances in data entry are avoided. Payment tracking is made more direct and easy because it is online payment. It is more easy to do it rather than manual checks. And online payment is much more economical than the check payment. It is at least 1/3 the cost of check payment, because it involves saving of this expensive stationery, security stationery of checks, etc. And it also saves, in that sense it is a green initiative, online payment. And also it saves a lot of cost on account of clearing, local clearing and all those clearing cost, administrative cost also is saved. Now, having said this, these are the intrinsic advantages of online payment, and it does not need much of a persuasion. People don't need to be persuaded to make online payment. It has got intrinsic advantages. So you don't have to disincentivize check payment in order to push people to online payment. It has got its own inherent advantages, and people who know those advantages will definitely go for it, whether with or without there are charges on the checks. They are self-explanatory and too obvious. These major advantages in online payments has resulted in a very steady and substantial increase in the online payments over the past 10 years. There is, as per the RBI statistic, there is a 30% average annual growth on year-to-year basis since the year 2003. So for the past 10 years, every year it has grown by 30% online payment. So it is self-explanatory. It is definitely advantageous, and people who find it advantageous will definitely use it, and it has seen it. So it is unstoppable. This is really very substantial increase and speaks for itself about the distinct advantages online payment method offers to the consumer. Now, having said this, now let us critically review the latest RBI initiative to discourage check usage by levying a charge on it. As I have explained above, there is no doubt about the distinct advantage of online payment method over the conventional check payment method. Now, we should get a realistic idea of the ground reality prevailing in our country. Let us not blindly copy a model of Western countries. Ground realities are different in India, and any model we adopt must be suitable to local situations. In absolute terms, the volume handled by the banking sector through check payment is 52% of the total volume of non-cash payments of 2.5 billion transactions in the year 2011-12. Means half of all the transactions, 2.5 billion, is done through check payment. So that is so widely prevalent in India even as on today. This factor should not be neglected. If we make analysis of the volume of check cleared through MICR checks processing centers in India during 6 months period, April to September 2012, we will observe that 89% of transactions pertain to the monetary value of less than rupees 1 lakhs. So if it is less than 1 lakh, means the person we are talking about is the layman, common man, Aam Janta. If it was above 1 crore, etc., then mostly it is a corporate affair. But now we are talking of the person which directly hits the common person of our country. It clearly indicates that a common man, Aam Janta, is still substantially using this. Nearly now 9 out of 10 transactions below rupees 1 lakh is done through check payment system at present. Now, while acknowledging that the electronic mode of payment is having distinct advantages over the conventional check payment methods, as already explained above, we should not try to push the bandwagon of electronics beyond it can bear. Otherwise, it will get imbalanced and crash on the rock of ground reality. If we try to push it, it has got its own advantage. It is growing at 30%, good. But let us not push it through more by disincentivizing the check charging per the checks. Otherwise, it will totally get imbalanced. Now, what is ground reality? 1. Common man does not use online payment method simply due to the fact that he is not tech savvy, as others have already mentioned. Any amount of pushing is not going to result in increased usage of electronic mode of payment beyond its already rapid growth rate of 30%, as explained above. 30% is quite high growth rate. Why decentralized it is 30 is not going to get 40. Only thing it will cause inconvenience to the common man who is going to, he is not going to get take. He will still use checks, but out of compulsion he will be making payment. Then electronic method of RTGS and NEFT is itself much more expensive over the check payment method at present. For all value payment up to rupees 2 lakhs, NEFT mode of payment is to be used. It costs rupees 5 per transaction for value up to rupees 1 lakh. For value between rupees 1 to 2 lakhs, it costs rupees 10 per transaction. In the case of individual transaction value of above rupees 2 lakhs, we have to use RTGS mode of payment. It costs even higher. For value of individual transaction between rupees 2 to 5 lakhs, the check charges, are rupees 25 per transaction, and for value above rupees 5 lakhs, the charges are rupees 50 per transactions. As against the checks, banks are charging rupees 2. So if they want to disincentivize this one, then they have to charge more than this. What is this? it cannot comprehend logic behind RBI. A common man does not use his PC and internet for making payment in majority of the cases. Moreover, the consumer confidence in terms of security of transactions is very low for online payments. The recent cases of hacking into accounts has seriously damaged the consumer confidence in this mode of payment. So I personally also don't use online payment because I don't trust. The disincentivizing usage of checks may have the result of slippage into cash-based economy instead of upward push into online method of payment. People may start using cash instead of checks. So it will be exactly reverse what we wanted to achieve. This will push back our economy into good or bad old days of cash transactions with the resultant pitfalls of black money and parallel economy. This risk has been acknowledged by the RBI in this discussion paper. It is not that they are not aware, and they have said we need to take care of it. While acknowledging this thing and saying that we need to take care of it, the actual action is opposite of that. Thus, instead of achieving its declared objective of less cash society is their terminology, they are using it, we will have more cash society. It is simply impractical in many of our day-to-day transactions to use online payment method. The way things are, Indian economy is being operated, it is all mostly it is through cash. I can't go outside and buy something and make him online payment. It has to be used check payment. Checks are bound to be more to be here even after many decades. Even after 50 years, checks, we can't eliminate check. Check payment has got its own advantage, it will continue to be here. Though its relative usage will go down. For a merchant, the credit card usage involves a cost of 2 to 2.5% of the value of transaction when we swipe credit card. And nowadays they have started recovering that cost from the consumer itself. So ultimately consumer pays for credit card. So even if we say electronic payment, ultimately he has to bear that cost. So for him better is to pay cash rather than electronic because the cost doesn't justify it. Neither he is going to make online payment to save that. Over the recent years, we have been moving away from the old socialist model of controlled economy into a model of free economy. And it is paying us rich dividends, as can very clearly be seen from the growth in national economy. Even in banking sector, with the entry of private banks, there has been a fair deal of competition and the consumer is the beneficiary with better and efficient services. In such a scenario, this idea of disincentivizing the usage of check payment through the artificial method of putting levy on checks seems to be out of place. We seem to be confused about our roadmap for taking us forward in the finance and banking sector. We should not take any retrogressive steps and follow the logic of 4 steps forward and 2 steps backward. We should not do that. Somewhere we free economy, then we again control. So there is a confusing, we are sending confusing signals. It is better to move in a sure and steady way rather than move in a zigzag method. In this connection, it is heartening to note that the Finance Ministry has withdrawn its controversial order to levy processing fees on payment of credit card dues by check or cash, as I see from your thing. And my compliments to Moneylife for taking up this issue with the authorities with its successful outcome. In conclusion, let me assert that the issue here is not of relative advantage of online payment method versus the check payment method. We have very clearly acknowledged the utility of online payment. The issue is, do we artificially push one wheel of the economy in order to make the vehicle of our growth move faster? It will only result in destabilizing the mechanism of market operations. Money is the energy of the economy and the monetary system is its engine. The various payment methods are like the engine oil of this monetary system. We will know very well what happens to our car when the engine oil is of bad quality or is dried up. Therefore, the message is loud and clear. Please do not mess up with these systems. It is giving good results on its own merits. Anyway, when we observe that the online payment transactions are growing a robust 30% on year-to-year basis like for over the past 10 years. So let it continue on its own growth path, on its own strength. So that for that reason, strongly we have to reject this suggestion of, there is no question of any debate or anything. It's very obvious. Thank you.
Thank you for arranging this discussion. It is a matter of vital importance for each and every consumer who is banking. And I agree with what all is said since the beginning of this discussion. I would like to make a point that we are talking of the inclusive growth in the financial sector, and this step is very much detrimental, because when we go to particular banks, we see that masses are approaching the banks and for the direct subsidy credits and all sorts of things, and this also needs to be stabilized. It is just taking shape, and this financial inclusion of the masses has first stabilized before we take any such steps. And I agree with showing a stick instead of showing a carrot, as we say, for going for RTGS or NEFT or even ECS, because ECS also is not functioning very smoothly everywhere. People are facing problems, like you get complaints, we also do get complaints that ECS is not functioning well. For the simple example that even MTNL does not allow all the branches of all the banks anywhere in India for their ECS. MTNL Mumbai does not allow that. So if these are the limitations of even ECS, because in that paper ECS is also promoted at many levels. So that ECS also has its own limitation as we come across. So all these existing methods have to stabilize, inclusive growth has to stabilize, and then automatically, as Mr. Soman suggested, it will take the growth of net banking and paperless banking in days to come, when the consumer do it on their own. थैंक यू।
सबसे पहले सुचेता जी आपको बहुत बहुत धन्यवाद देता हूँ। बहुत ही महत्वपूर्ण विषय पर आपने आज ये सभा बुलाई है और सीमित लोगों को रखकर और संबंधित लोगों को बुलाकर बहुत ही अच्छा एक वातावरण तैयार किया है। अब जहाँ तक ये बैंक और आरबीआई का जो नोटिफिकेशन था अभी तो कैंसिल हो गया है, लेकिन मैं सब लोगों की बात सुनने के बाद एक ही नतीजे पे आया हूँ, पूरे विश्वास से कह सकता हूँ। एक कहावत है कि आ बैल मुझे तू मार। ये आरबीआई यही पॉलिसी एडॉप्ट कर रही है कि अपने आप को इंजर करने के लिए बैल को बुला रही है, क्योंकि हमारी जो ग्राउंड रियलिटी ये है कि आज भी अगर आप अच्छी तरह देखेंगे तो मुंबई, दिल्ली और ऐसे अगर 300 शहर भी हम अगर पूरे हिंदुस्तान के लें तो वो पूरा हिंदुस्तान नहीं है। और अगर आप परसेंटेज वाइज बैंकिंग सेक्टर को डिवाइड करेंगे तो आपको पता चलेगा कि वॉल्यूम वाइज शहर होंगे, लेकिन क्वांटिटी वाइज जो होगा वो हमारे सारे गांव और छोटे छोटे नगर हैं। ऐसी परिस्थिति में इस तरह का कानून लाना जहां पर 70 से अधिक प्रतिशत लोग पूरे चेक के ऊपर ही डिपेंडेंट हैं, मैं समझता हूं इस तरह की नीति आरबीआई के लिए बहुत ही घातक सिद्ध होगी और वो अपने आप को ही परेशान करेगी। और बहुत बार हमने अनुभव किया है, पिछले दिनों में भी देखा है कि जब कभी भी किसी भी सरकारी संस्था ने इस तरह का कार्य किया है, उसे मुंह की खानी पड़ी है, खुद ही कानून बनाया और खुद में उसमें उलझ गए। और जैसा कि सोमन जी ने बहुत ही अच्छा बताया कि सरकार खुद इस चीज़ को स्वीकार आज भी नहीं कर रही है। जितने भी स्कीम थे आज 60 साल के बाद, आज भी लोगों को चेक के माध्यम से दिया जाता है, इलेक्ट्रॉनिक से कुछ भी नहीं हो रहा है। अभी आधार की स्कीम बनाई है, लेकिन आज भी सरकार के जितने भी बेनिफिट्स हैं वो सब चेक के माध्यम से ही होते हैं। चाहे स्कूल का छोटा सा स्कॉलरशिप होता है ना, वो भी चेक से देते हैं। कॉलेज में मैं देखता हूँ, अभी मेरे बेटे कोई चेक आया तो मैंने देखा कि वो चेक आज भी सरकार भी चेक का ही उपयोग करती है, स्कॉलरशिप में भी। तो कहने का मतलब है कि ऐसी परिस्थिति में इस तरह के विषयों को उठाना उचित नहीं है, लेकिन फिर भी अगर कानून बन जाता है और आने वाले दिनों में, अभी मान लीजिए कि टेम्परेरी उन्होंने उसको पोस्टपोन किया है, लेकिन हाँ हाँ ठीक है, तो इसके बारे में यही कहूँगा सुचिता जी कि मैं व्यापारी संगठनों के साथ जुड़ा हूँ। मुंबई महानगर व्यापारी परिषद का मैं अभी सेक्रेटरी हूँ और करीब मुंबई शहर में 26 से 27 ऐसी संस्थाएं हैं व्यापारी जो इस तरह के कार्य में हम लोग को पूरा सहयोग देंगी। और जब कभी भी आवश्यकता पड़ी हमें कि हमें इसके लिए न्याय तंत्र में जाना पड़े तो ये सारी संस्थाएं हमारे साथ जुड़ जाएंगी, क्योंकि एक तो मौलिक अधिकार के हिसाब से भी हम इसे चैलेंज कर सकते हैं। अब किस तरह से करना वो चिंतन करना पड़ेगा। तो जब कभी भी इस तरह का नोटिफिकेशन आ जाएगा उस वक्त हम देखेंगे कि कौन से मौलिक अधिकार के अंदर हम इसको चुनौती दे सकते हैं, क्योंकि इस तरह के गलत कानून से तकलीफें हमको और आपको ही अंत में होनी है। तो इसको कहीं ना कहीं रोकना है, सरकार की गलत नीति का सामना करना है। अभी तो बना नहीं, अंडर कंसीडरेशन है, लेकिन अगर कभी हो जाता है तो सुचिता जी जब भी कहेंगे मैं आपको 25 मुंबई के व्यापारी एसोसिएशन को यहीं पे ले आऊँगा। चर्चा करने के बाद मुझे पूरा विश्वास है कि 25 की 25 संस्थाएं हमारे साथ जुड़ जाएंगी। एट प्रेजेंट आई एम कमिंग फ्रॉम सोसाइटी फॉर फास्ट जस्टिस, Forum for Fast Justice, the parent body by Mr. Bhagwanji Bhai Rayani, and I am the president of the Society for Fast Justice. So we will take up the society and forum, both will join, and at the same time I am the secretary of the Mumbai Mahanagar Vyapari Parishad. So if you call a meeting like this, I will see that more than 25 registered association and who has got a very good strength of membership, they will join with us. बहुत बहुत धन्यवाद.
Mr. Utgi is from the All India Bank Employees Association, so maybe a different perspective.
Moneylife Foundation is a very important platform in India, just spreading this financial literacy campaign. It's doing a very important job. And today on this bank charges issue, we are sitting here and discussing. I represent All India Bank Employees Association, which is the, I can say, leading organization, pioneer organization.
While discussing the banking charges, I represent the employees, but then I also represent the depositors of my banks. Not my banks alone, but the banking industry. So unless we represent the bank depositors properly, I don't think that banking industry can flourish.
I find that the concept of bank charges is changing with every decade. With this, when we were doing the manual banking, we were charging so many things to the customers, but mainly it is for the customers who were taking the loans, advances. So we were charging, one is interest, another is otherwise quarterly charges, statement charges, this charges, that charges, audit charges, inspection charges, so many charges. This is the part of income generation for the banks. This was the concept. But for the depositors there was no such charge. We used to take the deposits, give him the passbook, give him the statement, whatever required, free of the charge. That is the correct value. Over the period, when the technology has taken place on the banking platforms, it's a good thing it has happened. We have negotiated it. Twice we have negotiated it. But now what we find is, even in those days, private sector banks and foreign banks were charging more because it was for them, it was their part of their income. Whereas public sector banks, since beginning, they are not charging. Even comparing within two sectors, for the borrowers also, the public sector banks were charging hardly nominal, whereas foreign banks and private sector banks were charging more because it was a part of their more income.
Gradually, the concept of banking has undergone a change. Now, earning more profits on different counts is the main concern for the banks now. So, bank charges have assumed a disproportionate, I can say, phenomena for foreign banks and the private sector banks. And unfortunately, I can say, the public sector banks subsequent to this liberalization and implementing the Narasimhan Committee recommendations after 1991, they are falling prey to this competition. This is unhealthy competition. Public sector banks are having more space in India than the private sector and the foreign banks. And we are handling more clientele in India, whether the small or the middle or the top corporates, everybody. Here, as a part of earning more profit and earning more income, we keep on charging more to every customers, whether is it borrower or the depositor. I am basically more concerned with the depositors. I am taking deposit from the depositor, then in fact I should think of giving him appropriate interest, considering the cost of deposit of my bank, considering the asset liability mismatch or match at the apex level. But today, I am also taking him for granted that he is one such earning member for me, where I can incur some income from him for charging passbook, for charging checkbook, for changing some statement, and all sorts of things have come, even for the depositor. One who keeps money with me, I should not charge him anything. This is my basic concept. So today, in that unhealthy competition of generating income through the bank charges, we are falling prey to the foreign sector and private sector banking competition, and we say, look, he is earning so much profit in his balance sheet. Out of this, he is getting more income out of this. Then the question comes, to whom we are to serve? Now the foreign banks and the private sector banks, particularly new generation private sector banks, are catering to the needs of only the, you can say, affluent class. And that's why even they say that you keep 10,000 rupees deposit minimum, and then I will charge minimum for your maintaining the balance also. This is a new concept. Now this concept, if it is made applicable to the public sector banks, this is hazardous. This will throw away the common people out of the public sector banks, and today it is happening. Even the zero balance account which is being opened in the name of financial inclusion, there now we are saying 1,000 rupees balance is must, and those who don't keep the 1,000 rupees balance, at source we deduct by charging him in his account, and ultimately after 5 years, suppose if he doesn't operate it, it becomes a zero. So 1,000 rupees becomes zero. This is exorbitant charges every public sector bank is charging, and therefore as a depositor, as an employee, I am totally opposed to this kind of a exorbitant, I can say, jizya kar. Today in the Cyprus, the government of Cyprus, in the name of that European Union's recommendations, bailout package, the saving depositor is taxed. Is it a bailout package? In the same way, if you make it relevant to the, I can say some relevance in Indian context. All depositors are being taxed. Those who keep money, and there some of the borrowers also are keeping money, they are also taxed. So why those who keep the money should be taxed? This is my first question. My point is, the citizens of this India must have the fundamental right of banking, and he has got the fundamental right of taking services free of charge. In the financial literacy program, we from the Bank Employees Platform, we have taken up this call from our 27th conference held in Cochin from 9th February to 13th February, demanding a fundamental right of banking to the common people of India, and service charges today, the bank charges and service charges is a one same word. This should not be charged. Now there is a tendency of developing a bank balance sheet, size of the bank balance sheet with this income as a more in the balance sheet. Now that is off the balance sheet profit. So other income, as you have mentioned here, selling of the cross selling of the products, that is any customer I grab and I sell, that you take the mutual fund, you take the LIC policy, you take this thing, and we are debiting his savings account, and we are asking him to go to the market. So precious savings, low cost savings is now turning into a, what do you call, I can say satta market. It is going to the satta market. So this is the most unhealthy practice, and with that the other income, fee-based income, and this kind of income is growing in the balance sheets of the new generation private sector banks and the foreign banks, and the public sector banks are falling into prey in that competition. This must be totally attacked from the depositor side, from the customer side, from the employee side. And now we should stop squeezing the customers. This should be our campaign for the financial literacy. Banks should earn on their own. They should not squeeze the depositors. They should not just give the small loan takers. They let them squeeze the corporates, those who have enough money with them. Today today what is happening is, charges are common for more people, they are paying it. But the corporates are not paying the charges. For them, most of the services at the doorsteps, most of the services are technology oriented, most of the services are reaching to them through the persons from the bank side, and now alternative banking channels are everything available to them. Now alternative banking channels transactions as of today is 30%. The Finance Secretary held its meeting recently with Mr. Chidambaram. When he took over the charges, he said 75% of the bank charges should be held under alternative banking channels. That means technological oriented all the channels. That means my brick and mortar banking will be virtually curtailed. It will not remain in 20%. It may remain only in the rural side. Rest of the banking operations, banking transactions, where the charges are being taken, there it will be through the alternative banking channels. Now technology input is of course necessary, but investment in the technology is being recovered only through the customers by way of bank charges, by way of different charges. What for and why for? All the technological charges also, when we want that it should reach to the teeming millions through the, that is the financial inclusion or inclusive banking or inclusion services, then it should be free. Why the investment in the technology has to be recovered to the customers? It is just like indirect taxes is raised and ultimately it is coming to the pockets of a common man and the budget is balanced or the fiscal deficit is balanced. Service tax is going, direct tax is now less, but indirect tax is so much. So it is just like an indirect tax. So that's why I'm saying there has to be a campaign that my services, I must right to get the bank services free of charge. You are using my money for developing the profit and income of your bank. You must manage yourself. You must manage your funds properly, efficiently. Don't put me into difficulty. From that point of view, I look to the bank charges. So 70s, 80s, 90s and after 2000, things are changing. Now, customer is being used as a commodity. That should be stopped. He is your bread and butter for the banks. We must give him the financial services. Even the financial sector secretary has changed his nomenclature from the finance secretary to financial services secretary. Now at least financial services has to be provided to teeming millions of this country, and therefore the bank branches should be expanded everywhere where there is 6 lakh villages are there. There the bank services should go. No foreign bank, no corporate bank will go there. Public sector should go. Yes, public sector should go. So 6 lakh villages should have a public sector bank branch. That should be, and public sector bank, government must make it compulsory that all the charges should be free, and every customer has got a right to take the free charges. That should be a fundamental right, and to that extent, there should be discussion in the parliament. Amendment should take in the respective laws. This is what I wanted to say on bank charges or the service charges, what it may be. For this, we have to join the issues. We should move together, and there should be today. Otherwise, A bank is charging so much, B bank is charging so much, public sector is charging so much, foreign sector is charging so much. So let us charge. We should recover every single pie. And now the slogan is, in the foreign they say, don't enter in the bank, don't have your footprints in the bank, do everything on your mobile banking or on your ATM. So this nonsense we should not allow in India. We have a right to enter, we have a right to have a services. Don't charge me anything. I am putting my money, and you have to manage your finances and you devise your model accordingly. Bank should be for the people, but therefore bank should not be there. Bank charges should not be there. This is my point of view. So cost of managing the services should not be put on the head of the client. Customer, maybe borrower or maybe depositor. I can understand reasonably if you charge one who is a borrower and a large borrower, not a small borrower. To that extent, I make a distinction. But I am for service from the banks must be free one, and that is my right.
I would like to say only one thing. Over the past 12 years, Reserve Bank has been continuously engaged in deregulation rather than regulation. In that sense, it has allowed the banks, board of directors to take decisions. And the latest on the deregulation was the limit for saving bank interest was also taken out. Therefore, it is deregulated and banks are free to give more interest than 4%. But you will find only two banks have done it. One is Yes Bank, which gives 7% interest, and another is Kotak Mahindra Bank, which gives 6% interest. Now, if deregulation is the theme of Reserve Bank, and Reserve Bank wants to leave it to the board of directors what they should do about service charges, and the level playing field in the service sector, banking service sector, should decide the competition, and the better person will be preferred by the bank depositor. In that case, what is the need for saying that you disincentivize the checks? You can say the other way, that yes, you can decide whatever charges you want to charge and incentivize electronic payment. Now, when I'm saying this with a purpose. There may be a bank, and if one bank starts it, other banks will start it. Incentivizing electronic payment also means that if you make a payment electronically, you will get a bonus. That is incentivizing. Not penalizing a check payment is not something which is advisable. If you incentivize the electronic payment, it will take a different turn altogether. And if that 30% of electronic transaction has to increase, then incentivizing electronic payment should be the thing. And Reserve Bank should leave it to the board of directors of each bank to think that how to incentivize that particular thing. But I agree with everybody, my personal opinion, that disincentivizing check payment must be totally opposed.
Just there is one myth about NEFT and RTGS, that it is electronic and it is faster and it is less this one. I just want to clarify how the system works. In case of check payment, the checks go to central clearing and automatically it is sorted out computerized system. In a large volume scale it is being done, and it is at the back office. Earlier, good 10 years back, it used to be done at the branch itself, where they used to prepare all those things, prepare long steps. Nowadays, they don't do nothing. They just prepare a list and send it to their back office, which is situated at Chandivli or some other distant suburbs. And from there, it gets done through a central MICR clearing system. And it is a very huge, large-scale operations done in a fairly automatic way and fairly established. Nowadays, it is fairly established. And whereas in NEFT and RTGS, what happens? This doesn't operate. It is done at the branch level. And when I fill up a form, first thing we have to fill up a big form whereby my NEFT number and name correctly and address, as well as the receiver's NEFT number, and this has to be done. The receiver has to send me this. First I have to ask for it. Ye aapka NEFT number kya hai? So he has to go and search his check and etc. Sends me NEFT number. Sometimes he makes mistakes. So I have to tie him down, so I can't just get it on phone, etc. I have to get it in down so that if tomorrow wrong payment happens, I can at least say it is due to your mistake. That is okay, that is no problem, we can take care of that. So one has to fill up a long form. Having filled up that form, the issue is it is still at the branch level, and in the branch they have to do data entry in the computer. So that I have my personal experience. When we started with great enthusiasm about this NEFT and RTGS, the staff in the branch, they started cursing us. बोला आप बहुत काम बड़ा है, अभी काम बहुत है. हम बोला क्या हो गया? आप तो प्रमोट कर रहे हैं RTGS ले कर लिया. नहीं अभी बहुत तकलीफ होती है, सब डाटा एंट्री करो, ये करो, वो करो, चेक करो, फिर वापस रीचेक करो. So their work has gone up very substantially because of RTGS and NEFT. So people don't realize RTGS NEFT is okay if you have a transaction of say 1 crore rupees or a very high value or transaction is okay, no problem. You can do it through this one seamless. But otherwise for normal check, it is even for the banking sector, it is more advantageous to do it by check payment. Otherwise they have to increase staff. This is what has happened. We are dealing with this local bank, even public sector bank. They have to increase their staff just to handle the large volume of RTGS and NEFT, which is we are handling it. So I doubt if how much RTGS and NEFT, the way it is currently being operated, is going to be useful. They have to work on that. So they have just taken for granted that this electronic system is more advantageous. It is not necessarily so unless the technological solution also is obtained from that.
And it's not done, there are some specific timings. It is not
Yes. Again, it has to do specific timing. If you pass through that, then again it goes there. So
It goes the next day.
next day. And in practical practice, in many of the cases, it is done next day. It is not done immediately. Though theoretically it is done within 2 hours.
That you send by courier, it reaches the next day.
Yeah, because we have to check up. Then the fellow has not, other thing happens, even if it goes there, receiver's bank has not yet credited. So somewhere it is hanging in between. So we have to again go up and enforce it. If he is not in need of money, he may look at his bank statement 4 days. But if he is urgent need of money, then he has to go back to his bank and ask him कि हम लोग ने भेजा है आपको क्यों नहीं मिला है. फिर वो जाके देखेगा, फिर वो हाँ मिला है एंट्री करने का बाकी रह गया. That person wrong account, and that person cleverly uses that float for his own purposes by crediting his account after say small delay, which that person generally doesn't realize.
No, this again comes back to what large technology companies are doing. They have dumped a technology. They're not looking at whether it is practically used. Exactly this has happened in MCA 21. Exactly this is what has happened in NSDL after Infosys has taken over. And in passports, this nightmare that has happened where it's not walk-in and the window is open for 2 minutes or 1 minute in which you have to get appointments. Nothing, I mean, we had a meeting here with TCS Top Brass to point out exactly this last week, that in passports, a family of 4 wants passports together. They managed to get after 6 tries 1 appointment. So will they keep doing this for each one to go separately? That means it's a nightmare. Where have you improved? Technology has created more abuse and problems. And this happens because neither Government of India nor RBI is willing to listen to us, the users. They just don't want to talk to us and say practically what is happening. Is it working for you or not? You know, there's a concept of mystery shopping that people do elsewhere. Obviously, RBI should have done at least that before they did the report. Why shouldn't the report, if they didn't engage with stakeholders, couldn't they have done for each point some kind of mystery shopping and seen, they would have known what you're saying about NEFT, right?
I will just
One point, one moment. As RTGS, NEFT and the technological transactions increase, then we have to see whether the system is fail-safe. And it has to be fail-safe. Whether it is compliant to take the volume that they expect to increase. Otherwise, there will be packets lying in the queue and the whole thing can hang up for hours together. It can happen, yeah. So whether technology is compatible and strong enough to support the increased volume of the transactions that is expected if the increase in the volume of electronic transactions.
Okay, in conclusion, I was just wondering how do we take this forward? So let's talk about suggestions. My personal view is that we've all had a discussion. We of course are going to write a report. We have taped it on video and we will put it out. But if we all send out our views on our own, I think as different organizations based on the meeting, it will have far more effect than a joint one, because as we have noticed, the minute you send a joint representation, they immediately count it as one representation rather than 7 organizations. So I would love to know what are your suggestions on what we should do next.
I have already sent one on 12th of February, which has not been acknowledged.
That's right. Nobody has been acknowledged, neither us.
We have also sent on behalf of the All India Bank Depositors Association.
Okay.
We will give you a copy of that.
I got that.
We have got
right.
So
I will send.
So we should just send Is there anything else that we should do to take this forward?
करना ही है और एक प्रतिलिपि इसकी कॉपी हमको मिल जाए ना तो मैं भी सोसाइटी और फॉरम में पास करके प्रेसिडेंट के माध्यम से भिजवा दूंगा.
I can send you the two, ours and theirs. I have.
तो उसमें से मैं बना के भेज दूंगा.
If there is a commonality which is emerging, supposing there are 10 points which are strongly coming out, they can become a common minimum program of all the groups together.
So should we put down the 10 points and circulate them for modification and
yes, बिल्कुल अच्छी बहुत अच्छे विचार.
I have made 2 points, and our customers should have a right to have a bank account.
Correct.
Today, under the name of KYC, is knocked out. He is knocked out, and in that minimum deposit so much in the process. So I should have a right to a bank account. I must get the bank services free of charge, and
basic bank services.
Fundamental right of the banking. These are the three aspects on which we should enlighten the people. And because today, in spite of the nationalization, I say that 40% of the population is having a bank account. That means 60% population do not have bank account for what?
देखिए, ऐसा करते हैं, निर्णय ये लेते हैं कि जितने लोग आए हैं अपने अपने विचार मनी लाइफ फाउंडेशन में भेज दें, उसके बाद एक बनाकर सबको भेज दिया जाए और वो जो हम समय सब्सटेंस होगा वो सब लोग साइन करके भेज देंगे। और इतना ही नहीं, इसके आगे इंडिपेंडेंट यू कैन सेंड वन कॉमन। और दूसरा मैं क्या चाहता हूँ कि अगर इस तरह से करना है तो ये 7-8 लोगों से काम नहीं चलेगा। हमें अन्य बड़ी बड़ी संस्थाएं जो मुंबई में आज हैं, जहां पर अच्छे विचार रखते हैं, ऐसे लोगों को इसमें जोड़ना है और उनके माध्यम से भी डालना है। क्या होता है, मैं जब देखता हूं कि पब्लिक इंटरेस्ट लिटिगेशन करता हूं तो मैं अकेला नहीं जाता हूं। अगर मैं अकेला जाता हूं तो दूसरे 7 एसोसिएशन को साथ में जोड़ता हूं और साथ में पिटीशन डालता हूं। तो मैंने जो भी पिटीशंस की थी पहले, उसमें हमेशा एक की जगह पर अगर मान लीजिए हमें ये काम करना है, मान लीजिए कि हम लोग मिलकर निश्चय करते हैं कि अगर सरकार हमारी बात को नहीं मानती है हमारे रिप्रेजेंटेशन के बाद ही, तो कहीं ना कहीं हमें जो भी हम हमारे संविधान के अनुसार कार्रवाई कर सकते हैं वो मिलकर करें, अकेला ना करें। और मेरा अनुभव रहा है कि जब कभी भी 7-8-10 संस्थाएं मिलकर पिटीशन करती हैं तो जज उस पिटीशन को महत्व देता है। आप अकेले करेंगे तो नहीं देगा। तो हम लोग सब यहाँ पर आज का ये बहुत ही महत्वपूर्ण विषय आपने उठाया सुशीला जी, और इस तरह के अन्य इश्यूज भी मैं अभी इतना दिन तो आपका ईमेल पढ़ता था, लेकिन अब जरा समय दूंगा क्योंकि व्यवस्था के कारण मैं उतना समय नहीं देता था। लेकिन आज के बाद मुझे लगता है कि थोड़ा आपके 2-3 चीजें मैंने देखी आने से पहले, निश्चय रूप से थोड़ा सा इंटरेस्ट से पढ़ूंगा और जब कभी भी मेरे विचार आएंगे आपको भेज दिया करूंगा, क्योंकि ये बहुत जरूरी चीज है। इसका मुख्य उद्देश्य ये है कि ये देश आज हमारे लोगों को द्वारा चलाया जाता है, लेकिन नीतियां भी आजकल विदेश में ही बनती हैं और वही नीतियां हम पर आज थोपी जा रही हैं। तो इसके लिए मिलकर ही लड़ना होगा और मुझे पूरा विश्वास है कि इस तरह से हम काम करेंगे तो सफलता मिलेगी। हमारा जब भी कार्यक्रम होगा मैं आपको भेज दिया करूंगा आप यहाँ से, क्योंकि हमारा ये सेमिनार मीटिंग हमारी लगभग महीना में 4 से 5 चालू रहती है। तो आज के बाद जो भी ऐसा कार्यक्रम समाज के साथ जिसमें सभी लोगों के लिए है, वो कार्यक्रम का हम आपको सूचना देते रहेंगे। बहुत बहुत धन्यवाद सुचेता जी, थैंक यू।
Sucheta has already offered in a way that she will take the minimum 10 points which are common to her. I think as he suggested, all the organization can send some more points to her, and on your own if you prepare the 10 points and they are circulated amongst those present here, and as Mr. Tucker said, those can be circulated to other organizations, more organizations. I think then it will take up a little speed, and then whatever you have got in mind that there should be a common representation that can emerge out of that. We can give it perhaps a period of 10 days or so,
enough.
contacting other organizations and do some contact. Is that okay?
इसका एक छोटा सा अगर आप मुझे 1-2 पेज का बनाकर भेजेंगे ना तो मैं 40 एसोसिएशन के कमेटी मेंबर्स को मैं भेज दूंगा इसके बारे में। आप अंग्रेजी में भेजिए, मैं उसको हिंदी और गुजराती में करके भेज दूंगा। हमारे यहाँ गुजराती व्यवस्था है तो बहुत लोग अंग्रेजी नहीं पढ़ते हैं, हिंदी मैं खुद कर लेता हूँ, गुजराती तो कभी भी ऐसा रहा तो 1 या 2 पेज रहेगा तो उसको मैं हिंदी और
आपको भेज देंगे।
हाँ, तो क्या होगा कि लोग अपनी भाषा में होता है जल्दी समझते हैं, और हमारे व्यापारी 90% आज भी अनपढ़ हैं, भले करोड़ों का कारोबार करते हैं।
Pan Mumbai first and then Pan India.
नहीं, लोग समझते हैं तो आपको रिस्पांस जल्दी मिलता है। मैंने क्या देखा है कि मैंने सन्मुखानंद में कार्यक्रम रखा, आप नहीं मानेंगे, 15 दिन की तैयारी में 2700 लोग आ गए, और लोग 3 घंटे का कार्यक्रम रखते हैं, हमने 8 घंटे का कार्यक्रम रखा, पूरा हॉल 8 घंटे के लिए बुक किया था, 8 घंटे तक लोग बैठे रहे। तो जब हम कोई भी चीज जो मन भाता है वो खाना देते हैं तो प्यार से खाता है, ऐसे जब हम कोई विचार देते हैं, और मेरे विचार अगर आप समझते हैं तो अच्छी बात है, अगर आप समझ नहीं सकते हैं तो उसका कोई मतलब नहीं रह जाता। तो आप कभी भी 1 या 2 पेज रहेगा ना, तो गुजराती और हिंदी में मेरे यहाँ से आपको 3 या 4 दिन के अंदर ट्रांसलेट होके आ जाएगा, तो उसमें कोई तकलीफ, गुजराती और हिंदी दोनों हो जाएंगे। मराठी का मेरे पास अभी कोई ऐसा मित्र नहीं मिला है जो समय देता है, क्योंकि ये सब चीज़ में समय लगता है। आप 1 पेज का भी करते तो 4 घंटा टाइम लगता है, पहले बनाना, फिर उसको टाइप करना, फिर भेजना। तो कोशिश की मैंने, लेकिन अभी तक कोई ऐसा व्यक्ति नहीं मिला जो मुझे मराठी में ट्रांसलेट करके दे। तो अगर वो मिलेगा तो वो व्यवस्था भी हम कर देंगे। नहीं, मैं ये क्या सेवा वाली चीज़ है ना, जहाँ हम चार्ज नहीं करते हैं। यहाँ आदमी ऐसा चाहिए जो स्व इच्छा से अच्छी तरह करके हमें देता है। तो वो ऐसा व्यक्ति होना चाहिए जिसपे अंग्रेजी की मास्टरी हो और साथ साथ वो अपनी भाषा में भी उसको अनुवाद अच्छी तरह से कर सके। वरना मेरा दिल बाग बाग हो गया, उसको अगर अंग्रेजी में ट्रांसलेट कर देगा, माय हार्ट बिकम गार्डन गार्डन, तो बड़ा खतरा हो जाएगा। ऐसी नहीं, मतलब कहने का तात्पर्य ये है कि उस व्यक्ति को अंग्रेजी का भी नॉलेज होना चाहिए और अपनी भाषा का भी ज्ञान होना चाहिए, तब जाके वो प्रभावशाली बनेगा।
Okay, on that note, thank you very much.